back, everybody.
Welcome back.
I'm Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
And we're two average guys coming at you here from Omaha, Nebraska, to talk about the Husker win yesterday, among other things that happened in college football. Hell of a win yesterday.
That was awesome.
I don't know how someone couldn't be excited about the Husker win. It was 9-6. I saw some people that said some people were like, "Oh, it's such a boring game." I highly disagree.
I would highly disagree as well.
The one thing I will say is it was the first half seemed like it lasted 4 hours. Like the first half seemed extremely slow. I think it was just, you didn't see any explosive plays. You didn't see a lot of offense. It was a defensive game, I mean, throughout the entire game, but I think that really changes people's perspective. And I typically don't like a field goal game. Like, I usually hate them.
Well, me too. And I was talking last week about how boring Northwestern Iowa was. Whatever the
Yep.
final score was, it was like 14-10 or whatever. But it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was. And
to play in a game like that and win, it is definitely fun.
To play, I mean, that was a true Big Ten game to watch in November.
Yeah,
I mean, you got the snow that started, in the second quarter maybe? Kind of light flurries. Really cold in the beginning.
It was really coming down.
Yeah, really cold in the beginning. Wind was there. And then the snow started to come, and then it just really started coming in like mid-third quarter.
I didn't think it was supposed to snow that much. I almost went to the game.
I don't think anyone thought it was supposed to snow that much, to be honest. So, I mean, that was just fun, though, to see the snow and to see us win a game that the last time we won a game, I saw a stat. Last time we won a game without scoring a TD, offensive without scoring a TD at all, was 1937.
Yeah, and
we beat, I think it was K-State 3-0. The other time that we didn't score an offensive touchdown was I think it was late 80s or mid to late 90s, and we had a defensive pick and we scored a touchdown on the defense.
So we still scored a
touchdown. We won like 14, we scored a few more field goals, and I think we ended up winning that game, low score, but we ended up winning. But that kind of game is that's a Michigan State game. That is something they have a street fight, and they'll win that.
Oh, for sure. And
I'd say 10 out of 10 times.
Especially with the style that Frost and that he's kind of run as a coach. Yeah, that's not really the type of game that he wants to get into.
No, and especially the way our defense has been playing this year, you got to worry about a team, even though they don't have much of an offense. You still have to worry about a team that has struggled defensively, and Michigan State can run the ball. They can, and they showed that they could. I mean, they still put up a decent amount of rush yards.
Once their quarterback figured out he could run.
And they got their running back out in front and did some blocking, but I feel like that game was 99% about our defense. Defense stepped up.
Definitely did. Defense played with a lot of heart. A lot of seniors stepped up on senior day, which was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Adrian Martinez, he didn't have a very good game. We'll be honest about that.
This is the second game that he looked like a true freshman.
And the other one was Michigan.
Yes.
At which he got pulled so he wouldn't get hurt. But no, at first I'm like, oh, it must be super windy because he was the way the ball was coming out, and it wasn't either overthrowing receivers or wasn't anywhere close to him.
Yeah.
I think he just had a little bit of an off day. It's cold. He's a kid from California.
Yeah.
He's a true freshman.
Well, and even on some of those we've seen it a few times this year, and we saw it last week where wide open receivers, he was overshooting it. I don't think it was the wind. I think it was just him overthrowing. He didn't want to underthrow it and get a pick because he knows their defense is good, so he threw it a little too far. But
different variables that go into it.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's going against a Michigan State team that's one of the best defenses out there.
Oh yeah.
And he didn't have one of his go-to guys playing, and J.D. Spielman. And weather, it's cold. Like I said, he's from California.
Yeah, but I do think, once again, our defense, I can't point out the defense enough. That was one of the games where our defense needed to step up in that game because we knew. Now, I predicted a higher score. I thought it was like 36-24 was my prediction. That was before I looked at the weather. I didn't know it was supposed to be that windy, and no one knew it was supposed to snow.
No, and because it was only like 10 minutes before the game that they ruled out Spielman. Yeah. I predicted 31-21.
Yeah. A lot of people were thinking we'd score 30-some points.
And I thought that they might even score more than that.
Yeah.
So, Kudos to the D. They really stepped up. They were awesome.
Antonio Reed. I mean,
He's a beast.
that guy. He played as a senior. He's a senior.
Yep, he is.
And he came out and he was on a mission. And you could tell every time he attacked the ball, attacked the carrier, he had 3 tackles for a loss, and he had that strip sack.
Yep. Head on the ball.
Damian Daniels gets to recover. Damian Daniels, we got to see him on defense yesterday. Zigbo, he breached the 1,000-yard rushing.
Yeah.
And Stanley Morgan gets 182 receptions to be the sole leader for receptions for a Husker. I mean, he beats Ken Bell.
Both well-deserved Huskers that have been through a lot in their careers here. And, they're still proving that they're worth something.
Yeah.
And they're going to be playing on Sundays. Unfortunately, with the weather being the way it was, you would have liked to see Zigbo maybe get a few more yards. He's been averaging quite a bit. And, Stanley getting closer to that 1,000. I'd really like to see him get that 1,000 yards receiving. No Huskers ever done that.
Yep.
So hopefully we can get that done against Iowa.
Yeah, and I think, like we said, the offense, not the best performance for the offense. 74 yards for Zigbo on the ground, 67 yards in the air for Morgan. But once again, when you have the weather the way it was, the wind, how bad it was.
Plus, Michigan State's #1 rush defense. I mean, you still run for 74 yards. That's not bad.
Yeah, and you have Barrett Pickering. Holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a 47-yarder.
Yep.
Wasn't pretty, but it was good.
I've watched it about 100 times.
It was not pretty.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was one thing that they were saying during the game. A kid like that, he comes in as a true freshman. He's one of the highest recruited kickers in And country.
Yep.
From Alabama, ratings wise.
So he ain't used to the cold either.
And so, he'd never kicked in the snow before. And early on in the season, he didn't really get a chance to gain a lot of confidence.
He struggled.
And he's really struggled. Obviously, he hadn't kicked one over 35 yards. He kicked 2 over 35 yards yesterday. Yeah. 1 to tie and 1 to win.
Yep. I mean, just that amount of pressure for, especially him being a freshman, and your seniors is the last time. That amount of pressure was fantastic.
That's really cool.
A couple questions. So McKenna asked, why was Zigbo not used to his full potential with Riley and his staff? I wish I had an answer for that. One thing, the only thing I can point out is we had other good running backs there, and they didn't want to have it. They decided they didn't want to have a #1, or they felt like Zigbo wasn't doing all the work they needed to do to be a #1. We know in the offseason he cut weight. We know he got in the weight room, so I think the staff really encouraged him to do more, and he came out with a different motive this year to say, "Hey, I want that starting job."
He probably watched a little bit of how UCF ran their plays and different things like that, how they operated, and said, "I'm going to buy into this. I'm going to lose some weight because they want to run up tempo. They want to run. I'm going to need to be faster if I want to see the field."
Absolutely.
With Riley, things were a little bit more relaxed, I guess.
Yeah.
And they like to throw the ball a lot more. So
yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things that we were focused on the throwing offense rather than a rush offense.
And this Scott Frost offense does throw the ball a lot, but it's just a little different.
They do it differently, yeah. Billy, hello from South Dakota. Go Big Red, absolutely. Michigan State's front four was unreal. I mean, once again, they're offensively they did well, defensively they did well. Our offensive line did pretty well.
I was gonna say
there was a few times where we broke down, but
it could have looked a lot like it did when we played Michigan, and that was brutal.
It was.
We know how bad that was. They've stepped up a little bit. They've gotten better as a group, and they didn't play that bad. I mean, we still were able to run a little bit.
I would say for the
didn't get a bunch of sacks.
I'd say for the lack of talent, which sounds really mean, but for the lack of talent on our offensive line, we play with a lot of heart. And I think you can't deny that from the guys. They play with everything they can. They bust their tail every play. And you've seen it. You see the decreased penalties. You see the footwork's improved. Farniok, Farmer, all these guys on the line, they are improving their footwork and they're improving their work ethic. And that's been the biggest difference on our offensive line. Obviously, once again, we didn't play a perfect game on the offensive line, but much better than what we saw early on in the year.
Yeah, and it might not be necessarily lack of talent. I think I said that maybe early in the season because I kind of thought it might be. I think it might just be talent-wise, it's a little different than what these coaches want.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to kind of mold them into what they can.
Yeah.
And I think they have.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think as far as our defensive line, we're still not seeing – we're running the 3-4 still. but we're still not seeing. We don't have a defensive end that's going to bust through the line. We don't have a defensive end that's going to come from the corner and get that quarterback or get that rusher right when he gets the ball, which I think we're missing. I really hope that we see it change next year with I mentioned earlier, I was talking to, I think it might have even been McKenna, Mo Berry as a defensive end. I see him being kind of like a Randy Gregory as a defensive end. Maybe not one of a three-point stance defensive end, but on the outside, a stand-up guy. We could potentially see that if we change defense.
He almost could be better as an outside linebacker instead of an inside linebacker. Yeah. It is tough because he's right there in the middle, and he's in on everything. So
yeah, and
it's kind of tough.
We got to go with the guys we have. Yep.
It just depends on what kind of personnel we got for next year.
But for what our defensive line didn't do as far as getting a ton of push, now they did pretty good. We still got a couple sacks. We had 7 tackles for a loss. With 3 of those coming from Antonio Reed, we had the strip sack. We put pressure on him enough to throw things off in the backfield. One play I want to talk about too is Ferguson. When they did that option play, not only did he get off his block, we had no one else covering the pitch. So he covered the quarterback and he covered the pitch. And that was a 2nd and 7, and that was huge. I think that might have been in the 3rd quarter. And he chased down the running back by himself and made that play 100% about him. And that's the kind of thing we need from someone rushing on the line. And what our guys up front didn't do as far as getting to the backfield, our second level, holy cow, talk about Williams, Boodle, Reed, Trey Neal had a great game. Gifford, didn't see a ton of him, but I know he still had a good game.
There's just a lot of guys getting
Dieter Young played well. We saw a lot of guys on defense that we don't see every day. And that was fun. Damian Daniels got to play.
Cam Taylor came in.
Cam Taylor had a huge pass breakup. I just feel like our defense.
Lamar Jackson had a good game.
Yeah, Lamar. Talk about a guy. Once again, we've talked about him before.
Because I was harping on him early in the year.
We harped on him for like the first 5-6 games.
Yep. And last year. And I don't feel bad about it because I feel like the coaches probably told him straight to his face, here's what you need to do to improve. Right. And he's taken constructive criticism and turned it into something positive.
He had 2 really good pass breakups yesterday that were big time. Both of them got called for pass interference, though. And neither of them were.
It was crap, man.
And so I feel like even with those, he still played a shutdown game. Boodle had a shutdown game, but I think he got thrown to 5 or 7 times for a total of 7 yards and 2 receptions. So he played really well. We had really good coverage. They did have some drops. Our receivers also had some drops. So it was not a clean game.
Martinez also missed a wide open Stanley Morgan for a touchdown that probably won the game.
So it wasn't a clean game offensively, but man, it's one of those games that it was stressful because you just never know who's going to get that breakout play, and you felt like it was coming for one of the teams.
Oh, yeah. When we had been holding them and we finally did take a lead, I was like, you know what, this is probably going to be the time where they get a long play, a breakthrough type play, but we held our own.
Yeah, and as Josh mentioned, we had that touchdown. They called the pass interference, or they didn't call the pass interference, and Stanley Morgan would have.
That was brutal too.
We needed that call, but we got a field goal, which helped because I think that's when we got the strip sack, wasn't it?
Yep.
We got the strip sack, and then we should have scored a touchdown, and we had the pass interference. We didn't get the pass interference call.
That was bad. Called everything else, but they didn't call that.
Jimmy's going to invite Lamar for Christmas. Hey, he can come out there. We have a big family, lots of food, so come on over.
I just might.
So yeah, we fought through the penalties. That's the biggest thing. You see a lot of teams get down on the penalties, and they feel like it's a one-sided game, which that game was definitely one-sided for Michigan State, getting a lot of the calls that probably would have been called on Nebraska, or they didn't call what they should have against Michigan State, or vice versa. Yeah. So I think the Big Ten officiating yesterday was just as bad as what we've seen this entire year, but it wasn't one-sided. It wasn't on both teams. It was pretty one-sided.
Yeah, there was somebody that texted me that was at the game, and they said, were the refs as bad as I thought they were? And I said, they were worse.
Yes. Yeah, but we fought through it. That is a team that is not going to give up.
Yeah, and I text a bunch of people right after the game. I said, we would not have won that game at any point in the last 15 years. Maybe ever.
No, because that's not Nebraska's game. Nebraska's game is not winning a game that's decided on field goals only.
Right.
That's a Michigan State game. That is an Iowa game. Those are low-scoring games. That's a Northwestern game where it's a low-scoring game. And you can almost say this is the team that's going to come out on top. And I'm extremely proud of the players on not giving up. on fighting through that adversity. That call on Bo Berry was complete crap.
That was terrible.
If nothing else, just don't call a penalty at all. If you're not going to call
well,
one
and
on
then they called something on them shortly after. That was nothing.
Well, so Trey Neal was talking trash in the end zone,
Right.
which I'm like, dude, get away, because they're going to flag you for taunting. But then the guy came up and headbutted him, which obviously you can't do. So
they called a lot of unsportsmanlike penalties. I don't know. Maybe they had a conversation. Maybe they had a conversation with the teams beforehand and said, "Hey, we've seen some different things from both of you. We're not going to let anything slide."
Yeah.
And who knows? But
you talk about, once again, we mentioned a street fight. It's got mentioned multiple times yesterday during a game. As Michigan State wins the street fight, that is their game.
Yep.
And they were physical. They were physical. They were mean. They were knocking us on our asses more than once, whether it was before or after the play. Zigbo got jacked from behind on a pass that wasn't even close to him.
I was very upset about this. And
she was very upset about this.
And I was with Kyle, and he's like, I don't think so. And I'm like, dude, if we did that to somebody, they'd call us every time.
He was standing still. He
And
wasn't moving towards the ball. Ball was already past him on the ground, and the guy just took advantage of that. And the ref was right there.
I listened to a little bit of Big Red Overreaction after the game, and they were talking about some of the penalties that and breaking down, like, okay, this was like the biggest one, or this was the one that made me the most upset. And they said the Zigbo, the no call, and I was like, yes, I was pissed.
Yeah, that was bad. It was really, there was calls like that were obvious. The number 48, when he got roughing the passer on Adrian Martinez, that should have been targeting.
I thought so too.
He launched helmet to helmet, and he left his feet. He launched at him, and that was a clear targeting. He didn't get the penalty. It was 99.
I know.
They called it on 99, and so you watch the slow-mo replay, and I'm like, that's like classic targeting, when you launch with the chrome of your helmet and you hit the guy in the face mask. That's targeting. But best defensive player for Michigan State is number 48. If you look at his stats throughout the season, the guy's in the backfield on every play. Yeah. He also lined up offsides like 10 times during the game. But
they did that early on, and they ended up getting a field goal out of that drive. That could have been the difference in the game.
So we all know that you can't let the refs beat you, and a lot of times the refs don't decide the outcome, but they do make a difference in the field of play. When it pushes you back 15 yards, or if you're on defense and it pushes the other team up 15 yards when maybe it wasn't warranted, that changes field position, it changes momentum, changes everything in the game.
They got a penalty that either took them out of field. I think it took them out of field goal range.
Yeah.
And so they had they made some mistakes in that aspect as well. But kudos to the team for, especially the defense, but for giving up a field goal on the first drive. I think they got a field goal on the first drive. You only give up 3 more points the rest of the game. And also with just getting past all the early fumbles. We fumbled the ball 4 or 5 times.
5 times total, but 4 in the first half.
4 times in the first half.
Yeah.
And 3 of them were on one drive.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate that, I'm not sure if we ended up losing. No, I think we did. So
we lost 2 fumbles in the game. So
yep,
but really
what it is. It worked out.
That was
we grinded it out.
And like I said, and multiple people talk about all year is we're going to be a high scoring team. We're going to be a fast tempo offense, and we couldn't do that yesterday. Partly because of the weather, and partly because of Michigan State's defense, and we overcame that. Once again, I wanted to say, Barrett Pickering, hell of a job. 3 field goals. You won us the game with those field goals.
Good to see a step up for the seniors.
And then our defense, I got to give it to Reed, Antonio Reed, Lamar Jackson, and then definitely Boodle probably on the shutdown. But Cam Taylor with that pass breakup was huge too. But it's just all around. Our team never gave up. You saw them throughout the game. They wanted to be mean. They wanted to be physical, and they got more physical towards the end of the game. And Josh mentions you think we wore them down towards the end of the game.
Maybe a little bit.
We very well could have. We were able to find some holes. It was chippy. I think there was a lot of talking, but our seniors came out there. They showed, hey, we want to go out on a high note. And the rest of the team really stepped up for him too. And after the game, there's a lot of talk about that. That was exciting. That was fun to watch. McKenna mentions, that Frost needed to call plays beyond 15 yards. And we had, I think it was twice in the game where he threw to Stoll. He threw a seam right up the middle. It was only like an 8-10 yard pass, but that was open more than once in the game, and we didn't call it enough. Tight end play. That was a tight end's game. That's where you use your tight end in a game like that when you want those short passes or a quick pass when a tight end goes straight up the field. Chip block, go straight up the field. And Stoll did that a couple times, had a couple really good catches. But that play, we only I think successfully ran it once or twice. I thought we'd do it more, but we
Well, and I said, we got to get vertical a little bit. We're throws to the outside, whatever, little dinks and dunks. But
as McKenna just mentioned, we have searchable tight ends. I just mentioned that too. We don't use our tight ends enough. But we've said this from the beginning of the season, is we were excited about our tight ends and what we have available for tight ends. Coaches talked about it a lot, but we don't use them. We don't use them much.
Yeah,
we do have some good wide receivers and running backs,
right.
But we have tight ends.
I'm not sure if it's with the early on in the season, especially with the offensive line struggles, we needed tight ends in there to block.
Yep. That
could be a big thing that you don't. It's kind of one of those intangibles that you don't really see. Yeah, like you said, that was a tight end. That was a tight end type of game.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely thought we should have. Like I said, we throw a lot of horizontal passes and everything like that. I know that's kind of how the offense is, but with the weather the way it was and the defense, I thought we should have taken a couple more shots.
Yeah.
And we did late, and that got us in position to win the game.
Yeah, and that with the Stanley Morgan, the pass. And it's funny because I was actually I had my son and I just started to leave my house and we were just getting the ball. And so I was like, I got to get to the car, get them loaded up, turn the radio on so I can see what's going to happen as I go to my brother's. And right as I turn on the radio, they didn't start yet. They didn't even run a play yet. I start the radio, they're like, we're in the red zone. I'm like, what just happened? I had no idea what happened. I'm like, how do we get out of the red zone within 2 minutes? I just walked out of the house. Yeah, sure enough, the long pass to Morgan. So I think it was 35 yards if I remember correct.
Something like that.
But that's the thing. Tight ends, we can use them to block. In a game like that, for blocking, for a chip block, and then get open for a pass.
Yeah.
And we saw it a couple times too. Even the pass to Stanley Morgan when he was wide open. It was an 8-yard. It was a 3rd and 8, and we're throwing it 25 yards downfield. We've done that with Bo. We've done that with Riley, and it drives me insane.
I think
throw it to the sticks. And Michigan State did that 2 or 3 times where they had a short yardage 3rd down, 7, 8, or not short yardage, but 7, 8 yards. Okay. They threw it to the sticks, and they got first downs.
I don't know why we've kind of gotten away from. Maybe it's just football in general. I see it a lot where it'll be 3rd and 1, and they'll throw a 30-yard pass, and it's like.
Yeah, but that's where you utilize your tight end.
Or 3rd and 3, and you throw it 25 yards. It's like I don't get. I mean, maybe the philosophy is they're going to be at the sticks. They're going to keep everything from sticks and beyond, but. It drives me nuts too. Yeah,
but I mean that's where you have those tight ends that can run those routes, and you do a button hook or you do a quick up and out, a 10 and out route to where you're open just at the sticks or past it. And but still, once again, I don't want to harp too much on some of the play calling because once again we won the game.
Yes.
I wore my master shirt because we own Michigan State.
We do.
We're 9-2 all time against Michigan State, 6-1 at home. So we own them.
Since we joined the Big Ten, they've only beat us once.
Yeah. And so we own them at home, especially.
Yeah, no, once or twice. Either way.
But they've only beat us twice all time. It's 9-2, so.
I think we were, regardless. We beat them in 2015 when they went to the college football playoff, when we had, a 5-7 team.
Yep.
We beat them up at Michigan State on Jamal Turner last second touchdown.
Yep.
It was great. We own them. We beat them when they had Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
And they came to Lincoln and we beat them 24-10.
Yeah. I mean, I think that type of game was one that everyone thought Michigan State probably would win if it's going to be low scoring.
Yeah, I would have probably agreed.
And at first, we were talking about the game, watching it. At the end of the first half, me and one of the guys and my brothers were like, this could be a 9-6 game. Very easily could be a field goal game. That's going to decide it because no one's moving the ball very well offensively. People are dropping the ball. A lot of 3 and outs. Defenses are playing well, but they're still giving up yards here and there. You just knew
there was turnovers.
Yep, we both got 2 turnovers, so both teams turned it over twice. They had 10 more minutes of possession than we did.
Which, if you would have told me that before the game, I would have said that they beat us.
Yeah.
If you would have told me that it was 35-25 minutes.
Yeah.
I would say that we lost the game.
Yep. So McKenna asked about Hickman, if we've seen video of him from Omaha, from Burke. I've seen some video of Hickman.
Yeah.
He's and Juergens. Juergens, I think, could still be used as a tight end. I know he's getting some practice at offensive line.
I think a lot of position groups want him.
But I also see. I think the reason why they were practicing at offensive line now and trying to switch him now was because we needed him right away on the offensive line.
Yeah.
And then he got hurt. So
he got hurt, and then the offensive line did kind of find a groove. So
yeah, but now maybe he plays both. Maybe he could do both.
You can play D-end, you can play tight end.
Yeah, so I think he's a guy that you can put in multiple positions. But
center.
I think Hickman, when he gets to Nebraska, I think he's going to be a big difference maker for us.
Yeah.
So what do we got? 1 or 2 more years with Stoll?
I'm not sure.
So he's not a senior, I know that, but I think Stoll we get more involved. But yeah, we do have to use our tight ends more, get them more involved in the offense. I think that's going to lead to more points, more of those quick yardage plays, like a Jason Witten for the Cowboys. You're in 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. You know they're throwing to Witten, but guess what? He's going to get open. He's probably going to be, because he chips the block. They're going to bring pressure. You throw a quick 5-yard strike, he's open, and he falls forward over the line for, even in his late years, he wasn't the fastest guy, but he found ways to get open, and that's what our tight ends are going to have to do.
And I think, once they start getting players that they recruit themselves, watching UCF mainly last year, they did throw to tight ends a lot.
Yeah.
So, once they get recruits they want and they get their guys, I think we'll start throwing to tight ends a little bit more.
Yeah. So, Patrick, what was up with the Mike Riley sign at the end of the game? You're going to have to explain that. I'm not sure.
I don't know if I saw that.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. Maybe further explain that. Maybe I missed it.
Or if you got a picture or something so we can see it.
Yeah, throw it up. We'll take a look. But I'm not sure. One thing I do know is it was awesome. It was quite the scene at the end of the game. A bunch of the guys were doing snow angels and swimming. Cam Taylor said, this is the first time I've ever seen snow. It's snowing because they had that one practice, but it wasn't snowing when they were outside doing angels. It was on the ground.
Yeah,
this is the first time he actually saw it snowing.
That's crazy.
And he got to play a football game in the snow. So there's a lot of guys. Pickering's probably the same way. So these guys, they had fun. They were like, man, we just won a game in the coldest weather I've ever been in my entire life.
Oh, yeah.
I'm freezing, but we had a good time.
There was a lot of good pictures from the game. I'm not sure why Frost had the game ball, but he had the ball that he was holding up. That's an awesome picture.
Yep. Yeah. And they said he was in tears walking off the field.
That's awesome.
that is a coach. That is, once we said it again, a player's coach.
Well, and a guy
he is a player's coach, and I love it.
A coach that came in to a program that was hurting, and things didn't start out too well.
Yeah.
But things are finally turning the corner, and he wins a game. He's probably not really supposed to win. That he doesn't coach that type of game.
Yeah.
And win that type of game. So that was really cool. That game could have just as easily been just like Michigan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And to me, that is...
Michigan's offense is a little better, which is why it wasn't.
That is momentum going into the Iowa game. So we'll get to Iowa here in just a second. Let's talk about what else happened in the big.
I have 2 more things about the Nebraska game. One, if you haven't seen it, look it up. Picture of Maurice Washington jumping over that guy. It's fantastic. That was very cool. Just shows and he's got knee brace on.
Yeah.
And he did that.
Yep.
He's been injured the last 2 weeks or more. So that's cool.
He jumped like 5.5 feet in the air.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, there were some really good GIFs out there too of him jumping over the mountain.
Oh yeah, I saw
they were pretty, but he
jumping in the mountains and stuff. Yeah,
he absolutely loved it. So I think so. Apparently, he said someone gave him the ball. So
either way, that's cool.
What was your other thing?
The only thing was the only reason I did kind of want to go to the game was because I kind of wanted to see that little ceremony they did before with Foltz's parents and Sadler's parents. Really cool thing there. And I know that they weren't place kickers, but all the points scored were from the kickers.
And there were a lot of punts in the game.
There were a lot of punts.
Actually, Armstrong had a pretty good game yesterday too. He punted really well.
That was
first one into the wind was not very good.
That was really bad.
He needed some more low line drives. We got some really good kicks from him yesterday. So once again, he's a freshman. Really looking forward to seeing how he develops over the next couple of years as our punter. So,
is he a freshman or is he a junior?
Armstrong?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's a walk-on.
I think
that's what I'm thinking of. He's a walk-on. He may be a little older.
Junior.
Either way, he's a walk-on. So he still has some strength to get and pick it up.
Either way, I just want to throw in that little bit about the kickers and
that was pretty cool. And there was a big argument on the Cornhusker Nation Facebook page on it was not actually they're not the place kickers, so it doesn't really relate. So people are arguing back and forth. It's fine. I get what you're saying, but it was still cool. Special teams. Let's just say that special teams.
Special teams.
Decided the game.
Fine, whatever.
So anyway, sorry. So what happened the rest of the big?
Okay, yeah, sorry. I just wanted.
So Michigan actually really struggled with Indiana. Indiana brought the pain.
They're down at half.
They were losing at half, 17-15, but they ended up winning 31-20.
Yeah, I mean,
right now a win's a win.
Yeah,
when you come back,
a win is a win right now. Probably not, the best time to have a down game when you got your two next games are very very big for making it to the playoff.
Well, and that's where you look at where they're overlooking Indiana.
They probably were a little bit.
Because Indiana's not having a good year.
They probably were, and everybody has a tough one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And Michigan's been rolling, so they were kind of due for a tough one. So
absolutely.
It is what it is.
McKenna will address your question here in a second. Penn State won, expected. Minnesota lost to Northwestern by 10. Wisconsin beat Purdue in triple overtime. I actually picked Purdue to win that game because I thought it'd be a good game. Even Purdue's.
I think I picked Purdue to win that game too.
Yeah, but it was close. And we'll talk about Iowa before we talk about the Iowa game. Was it Illinois and Iowa? So we'll talk about them in a second. What's the legacy of the seniors? McKenna asked about that. So, yeah, obviously they expected to have a better senior year. Stanley Morgan thought about leaving, decided to stay.
God, he did not
Scott Frost, I'm pretty sure, had a really good chat with him and said, we need you.
Yeah. And
Spielman might have even talked to him, but talk about a hell of a senior game yesterday. To go out on top
with that many seniors stepping up.
If we can win next week and get 5 wins on the season, so we do better than we did last year with an 0-6 start, win 5 of our last 6 games.
Sorry, go ahead.
Even before that, I think the legacy of the seniors is going to be their leadership and changing the way this season ended. We could have easily kept losing games. But I think the senior leadership between Stoltenberg and guys like Stanley Morgan and Gerald Foster, those guys stepped up in a big way. Tanner Farmer. It's not always what you do on the field and the results on the field, but it's how you lead the team, and that's why they were captains. They may not have been the best guys on the field every game, but the captains stepped up.
Some of them were, though,
and
like Devine Zigbo and Stanley Morgan. So,
but they changed that culture in the locker room.
Yeah, and I think that they're, ideally, hopefully, they're setting the foundation for. I know it kind of sucks for them because they're not really going to get to reap the benefits of this whole thing, but they're laying this down, getting the Scott Frost era started.
Yeah. Well, and Frost said it a while ago. I think it was after we lost 3 games straight, and he said, you got to think of it as when you build a house. You can't build a house without a sturdy foundation.
Yeah.
And we got to build that foundation first. And right now, our foundation is rocky, and that house wouldn't stand up. Well, the seniors really stepped up to make sure that foundation was built and to help this team go on into the next season saying, hey, we may not have had the best season last year. We had a losing season, but here's what we accomplished from an 0-6 to this record. And if that's
a 5-point loss to Ohio State and then 5 wins. Ideally. I mean, depending on how this week goes. But
And talk about recruits yesterday. Man, we had a ton of recruits. I mean, I posted a bunch on Twitter and on our Cornhusker Nation page on how many recruits we had there. More defensively than offensive guys.
Which is good.
Which was huge. Had a couple of JUCO guys there.
The weather wasn't that favorable for a game.
Some 2019, some 2020 recruits, a couple 2021. But that game I think we're going to get some more commits after that. So I'm excited to see what happens there. But I think the seniors set the tone for what's going to happen in the future, especially next year. I think next year is going to be a huge thing for the Huskers on how they turn that boat around.
Yeah.
Not to be PJ Fleck, but how to turn the boat. We're not going to row it. We're going to turn it around, and we're going to start steamrolling people with that boat.
And we're going to motor past your rowing.
We're going to motor past your boat. We're going to run you over with our gigantic cruise ship. But I think that's really is that legacy of the seniors is they're the guys that are going to go out. They may not have gone out as far as being on top for a winning record, but they're going to go out on top as far as setting the stage for the next guys that come in and all the guys that are currently in the program.
The guys that are behind them that are going to be playing over the next couple years.
Josh asked about the Ohio State game. Yeah, I didn't mention that yet, but Ohio State, man, they should have lost the game. Maryland, at one point, Maryland was winning the entire game.
Yes.
Until the fourth quarter. And then really the score just kept going up and up and up and up. So wide open on that 2-point conversion. We saw it last week with Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Wide open, and quarterback misses him. Happened again.
I like the call. You really got nothing to lose. And you know what? They're a 5-5 team, and they want to make a bowl game.
Yeah.
And so they just said, you know what? Let's put it in our own hands and try to win this 6th game.
And we're seeing that more and more. West Virginia has done it. I mean, it's fun. They don't want to go to OT and have it decide in OT. We got the ball. Let's do it now.
Especially if you haven't been able to stop them.
Let's do it now. Why not?
Yeah.
And they had it. I mean, they had it. And I was an OT, so they had it. And then wide open receiver, he just missed him. It was unfortunate. I mean, Ohio State, if you're looking at, hey, what if they beat Michigan? And what if they beat Northwestern? Are they in the playoff? If you ask me, no.
Probably not. I would say
29-point loss to Purdue, 5-point win over Nebraska, 1-point win in overtime to Maryland. Really poor game against Minnesota.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to beat Michigan. I think Michigan's going to roll them.
No, I think so too.
I think Patterson's going to pick that defense apart, especially their corners and safeties. Pick them apart. I think Michigan's going to win by at least 3 scores. I just don't think that game's going to be close. I don't care if it's a rival game. I don't think it's going to be close. And I think Urban Meyer's going to be gone after the season.
Well, there was a picture of him all hunched over after the game, and he just said that he was, excited or whatever. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird situation. It seems very similar to Florida.
Yeah.
When he was at Florida.
Absolutely. So, I mean, really, McKenna mentions, brings a good point about Fox advertising our games and playing our games. Really, they played a lot of Big Ten games this year. I wonder if there's...
they had a...
That's what I was going to say. They probably have some sort of contract with them now. They played a lot of Nebraska games, so that's pretty big for us.
You know what? 8 freaking 11 o'clock games in one season is not... That's BS. I'm glad we were able to have the amount of recruits that we did yesterday, because when they announced that it was 11, I was pissed.
Yeah.
Just because it's tough for the recruits to get there.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, if that game started at 2:30, there would have been a lot of snow.
Yeah.
Basically, it would have been snow the whole game. So the outcome could have been a little different.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah. We love hearing the guys, the seniors especially, saying they had fun this year. They loved playing here, loved playing for the staff. This is their third coach for some of these guys.
Well, yeah, and 2 years ago we were ranked in the top 10 when we played Wisconsin.
Yeah.
We did have like a 9-4 season or whatever the case was. I imagine this season is way more fun than that.
Yeah, I mean the guys.
Our team is way better than that. That team was like the worst 9-4 team. I mean, we were beating teams by a couple points every game.
But that's how I feel about Ohio State right now. Is they have one loss, but if you look at them and you watch them play, their rush defense isn't very good, and their corners are not very good. Defensive line is Their offense is when Haskins decides to actually showcase what he can do on the field, and when Weber and Dobbins can do what they do, you have a pretty legit offense.
I think Weber and Dobbins can do whatever they want, but the problem is they don't have the offensive line that they have in the past.
And they don't have wide receivers that block really well.
So they haven't been able to do what they typically Ohio State would do.
Yeah. So the eye test says if they win the Big Ten, to me, they shouldn't get in. But they're Ohio State, so you never know.
It just depends on what happens elsewhere.
We talked about it last year. The Iowa loss really hurt them last year and made sure they didn't get in. McKenna mentioned, sorry, we forgot this. So Mo Berry went over 100 tackles this year. We haven't had someone over 100 tackles, I think, since 2014. There's a lot of things that haven't happened in 4 years.
Same thing. We hadn't had a 1,000-yard rusher
since 2014.
And you know what? 2015, 2016, 2017.
you know who coached that year, so
we know why.
So let's talk about Iowa next week. So we have one more game on Friday.
Yep.
Iowa beat Illinois 63-0 after losing to Northwestern in really a game that their offense just stunk. Yeah. And really, I still think that they are better than Northwestern. And Northwestern, you can call it a gritty game. You can call it whatever you want.
What was that score, 10-7 or 14-10?
Yeah, it was 14-10, I think.
I said 14-10 earlier.
But they didn't use Noah Fant like they should have.
Did Fant play yesterday?
He did. He had like 4 receptions or 5 receptions, but he also had quite a few yards and 1 or 2 TDs, I think. 1 TD, I think. Nate Stanley had 3 TDs. He threw 3 TDs. I think they played angry. They played mad yesterday. And they said, screw, we shouldn't have lost last week. We let that game slip through our hands. We didn't do what we needed to do.
They lost 3 in a row before that.
Exactly. So they lost 3 in a row. They're like, we're not doing this before a Nebraska game. We can't lose this game. Josh, you're going to be there. Whew, that's going to be a cold one, I think, but should be a fun one for sure.
I think Branko's going to be there, too.
But Iowa played mad. Now, a lot of people are saying, Nebraska-Iowa rival game. It's a rivalry game. A lot of people think it's not, and I think a lot of Husker fans just don't respect Iowa. It's not even your little brother. We're so much better than you. We don't respect you at all. So you beat us a couple 3 times in a row now. That ends now. That's just how this cross state line battle is gone, and it's Iowa fans. I think they just hate Husker fans, to be honest, because the way we treat them.
Exactly.
I don't consider it necessarily a rivalry game, and the reason why is because I consider a rivalry game more of, hey, I'm Iowa, you're Nebraska, and we're battling for the Big Ten West every year. It's going to be us or it's going to be you.
Nebraska, Oklahoma.
Yep.
Michigan, Ohio State.
Yep. And right now in our division,
Alabama, Auburn.
Right now in our division, it's been kind of a toss-up, but Wisconsin's been the front runner every year.
It's probably been more Wisconsin and Iowa.
It really has. And so Wisconsin-Iowa, I consider that more of a rivalry game right now just because the last few years how it's gone. Yeah. Now, do I see it becoming a rivalry game down the way? Potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the way Eichhorst changed because he was very against us being our rivalry game against Iowa because he disrespected them. He didn't have respect.
He did.
Or at least did not have respect for them. So we played Minnesota last game of the season, which I don't get, but it's going to get back to Iowa, and by that point, we should be a little better than we are right now. And maybe it can become a rivalry. I mean, like you said,
could be.
If I would think it may end up being more like Nebraska-Wisconsin, at least with how Wisconsin normally wins the West.
It could be.
I would kind of hope for that. If that's what our standard is to play for the Big Ten championship every game or every year, I would think that our rival would then become Wisconsin. But as we've seen it this year, it could be Purdue, it could be Northwestern.
Yep. So Michigan State, I mean, they're not in our division, so that or in our division. So I would love them to be a cross division rival.
Right.
They're way more about defense than offense majority of the time.
The games have been pretty close.
But if I had to just say someone from the East, Michigan State, absolutely. I would love that.
I know when we first,
but we've owned them.
When we first joined, we had an automatic crossover game every year with Penn State, which I liked.
Yes.
And we hadn't lost to them since joining the Big Ten until we got our butts kicked last year.
Yeah.
I think we came back and scored some.
I would love to have Penn State as the East be a rival. I think in the West, though, like you said, I do think Iowa, Wisconsin's been more of a rivalry in the West more than anything else.
Honestly, our rival in the West is probably Northwestern.
It is.
We've gone to overtime with them at least 3 times since joining the Big Ten.
Yep.
There's been so many games that have been one possession.
A lot of games are won on the road by the other team.
I think every game has been a one possession game except for one.
Yep. That's just right now the way it is.
Yeah.
But once again, I actually would not mind Iowa being our rival as long as it is, hey, we're the top 2 teams in the West consistently, and whoever wins that game, like Michigan, Ohio State next week, that decides who wins the East.
That would be cool, if the teams are both 10-1 coming into the Nebraska-Iowa game.
Yeah.
Winner goes to the Big Ten championship and potentially college football playoff. That'd be fine.
Yeah, and I think Josh mentioned it's always going to be Iowa, but once again, I think there's a mutual hate, if you will, for each other.
Yeah.
Not necessarily all fans. I'm not putting all fans in the same bucket because we know some Iowa fans and they're pretty cool. We talk crap back and forth, and it's no love lost. It's hey, no love lost, but I hope we bury you in the sand next week. I hope we put you 6 feet underground and kick the snot out of you. I mean, that's what Iowa wants for their team. That's what we want for us. I just don't consider it a rivalry at this point due to just what I feel like a rivalry should be.
Yeah. It takes a little while to, changing conferences. It's going to take a minute.
Yeah. Yeah,
I know we've changed. I know we've been in the Big Ten for quite some time now, but we've had good years and we've had bad years.
Yep.
Iowa's had good years and they've had bad years. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
it is. But I gotta say too, watch out for Purdue next couple of years.
Yeah, as long as Brown doesn't go to Louisville.
Yeah, which who knows?
I mean, that's his alma mater.
It is, but it was also reported by someone who covers basketball, not football. He said he has resources. Everyone's like, that guy doesn't know shit about football. But anyways, we'll find out. It said it was going to be announced on the 26th, on that Monday after Thanksgiving.
I don't know why you wouldn't want to stay.
Yeah.
You're building something that's starting to look pretty good in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
In a division that has some up-and-coming coaches and become, big-time games over the next few years.
You've heard a lot of the normal talk from coaches when you get asked the question on the rumors and what's going around, and he's like, I love wearing black and gold. He doesn't directly address the question more than saying, I love where I'm at. I love coaching where I'm at. Right now we got to focus on next week. We have more work to do. Those are the standard coach answers, whether or not a rumor is true or not. That's what they are told to talk about because they don't want to address the actual question. That's a smart thing to do. Yeah. Now, one thing I'll say before we move on to kind of what's happened in playoff picture and then next week's games. You got, just lost it. Kansas. Kansas put up 40 points on OU yesterday. That game I thought started to slip away from Kansas, and then they started to battle back.
Did they really? I guess I didn't really pay attention to that. What was the score of that game?
I think 55-40. They put up 40 points on them. So, once again, OU, if you're looking at the eye test and you're saying they're a playoff team, I would challenge that.
Yeah, I mean...
They should have lost to Oak State. I would challenge...
Didn't they go to... Well, Army's ranked now.
Yeah, but I would challenge any Big 12 team as passing the eye test to say, you can compete with these other guys in the top four. I don't see it because there's zero defense. And these other teams are good defensively, while Big 12 has offensive weapons, but you're playing against better defenses. Notre Dame's defense is better. Clemson's defense is better. Bama's defense is better. You're not going to beat those teams with your offense. You're going to have to win some battles defensively, and the other teams have good offenses. Yeah. So I don't see them passing the eye test, even if they win the Big 12. A lot would have to happen because you got Washington State, who put up 55 yesterday in the first half against Arizona nonetheless, but...
but they were talking maybe an upset in that.
Yeah, 69-28 was the final. Minshew Minshew could be right up there in the Heisman talk. I don't know why he wouldn't be. He's having a stellar year. But one loss, I still think...
A 3-point loss. They're kicking themselves in that.
Yeah, but I think Les Miles going to Kansas. I've seen so much back and forth. There's one guy, Stuart Mandel, who's like, this is the worst thing possible for Kansas. Worst idea for Les Miles to go to Kansas. This is a stepping stone. This is not... he's like 5 years, I think. They want him to come in to help with recruiting, to help kind of build that foundation for a Kansas team that has been good in the past. It's just been a long time.
Yeah, they've been about the worst Power 5 team over the last at least handful of seasons.
Yeah. So,
although they are having a better year this year than they have.
They got 3 Power 5 wins. So, and they went toe to toe with OU.
They have some 4-star running back or something. Puka.
His name's Puka.
Yeah.
That's one of my dog's names. I'm like, hey, it's Puka. Running the ball.
Puka Williams or something.
Yeah, and then one of the quarterback for Oklahoma State, his last name's Cornelius. That was also one of my foster dogs. But anyways, Puka's really good. And Kansas, this is Les Miles coming in to help build the program back up, help with money and help with facilities, with recruiting. You're gonna struggle to recruit in the Big 12. Some of those big states that they recruit from, Texas, go to Kansas. I mean, really, probably not. But with a name like Les Miles, if you recruit some good talent, you could change that program around for that next up and coming coach that's going to say, all right, hey, old man, step over. I'm going to take over for you. You've done a great job building the foundation.
If you could find some diamonds in the rough in Big 12 country.
You know what? Kansas has a crap ton of JUCOs.
And you know what? I graduated from high school in Kansas. Everyone I went to school with went to Kansas, just like if everyone went to Nebraska or UNO or whatever. I dislike Kansas sports. But Kansas is one of the most fun college campuses I've ever been to. So, and that helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a blast. The place is awesome. So
you're saying Les should have gone to Colorado, but that I don't know if Colorado was talking to people before. They just announced today that
they had announced last week that it was more than likely going to happen.
Yeah.
that Colorado was going to fire McIntyre.
Yeah, but I think if they would have won yesterday, they probably wouldn't have fired him yet.
Probably not.
But
I think it maybe would have been the end of the. Why are you firing him? I guess because are they going to make a bowl game?
6 losses. They're 5-6 right now, so they could. But
you bring an interim coach in for the last game and maybe a bowl game.
Yeah, maybe. But I think Les is isn't that his alma mater or his wife's alma mater?
Oh, I don't know.
One of them was KU. I can't remember.
Oh.
But one of them went to KU. So yeah, you can say he struggled his last few years at LSU, but LSU always struggled to get a quarterback. Always.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good move. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Kansas can do in the Big 12 moving forward. It's going to take them a little bit of time, but they have some talent there. You've seen it this year. They have some talent there to move the ball. I mean, I enjoyed the game yesterday. I haven't watched Kansas football in a long time.
I couldn't tell the last
I've
time
actually watched them twice this year, and yesterday was a fun game to watch because they went toe-to-toe with OU, who's supposed to be this big powerhouse. They don't have defense. They really don't. Puka was running all over the place with them. It was just fun to watch. But I think the Mike McIntyre fire, I just think that was coming. After they won their first 5, they're all high and mighty. He cried after beating Nebraska, and then they just went downhill once they got into that conference play. And they had a good season a couple years ago with him. They were in the top 10. I think at one point, whether they 12 or were they 12-1? No, they weren't 12-1. Maybe 10-2.
Maybe 10-2.
10-2 went to
the Pac-12.
Yeah, Pac-12 championship game. But
that's
really, I could care less about Colorado. They had to blow their game dead yesterday because fans were throwing snowballs at the other team. I mean,
of course.
That's why people don't want to go watch Colorado.
I know.
In Boulder.
I said maybe we should go out to that game next year, and then probably not a smart idea.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
But no, I think the one thing I take away from this is I text you. I think that we might be able to go in and snag a couple recruits. Maybe guys that are committed to Colorado right now might be able to change their minds.
Or even Colorado State, because Colorado State was supposed to be big this year.
Or,
they really struggled.
That's true. Or even kids that are still on the fence, and maybe they're from Colorado, and maybe their plan was to go to Colorado, but now, depending on what coach they have that comes in, we might be able to snag a couple recruits.
Yeah, and one more game that really wasn't on my radar for this weekend at all, but Chip Kelly and UCLA beat USC.
Yeah.
I think Trey Helton might be the next vacancy.
Well,
I think
he's definitely going.
He's going to be. This is the worst team.
They're going to get blown out this next week. I
know
it's a rivalry game, but they're going to get blown out.
Notre Dame's going to destroy them.
They're going to blow them
out. I told Pooty it's going to be at least a 3-score game. Just like I thought yesterday, I said at least it's going to be 17-21 point victory over Syracuse.
Well, and Syracuse quarterback got hurt, and that.
I don't think it would have made a difference though.
I know that's
I think
exactly
Notre Dame
what
still would have ran the game, and I think they're going to destroy USC next week. So here's what I have for the playoff. Here's what I think. So for the SEC champ, we're going to have Bama or Georgia. They're already playing. We know they're going to play. I think the winner gets in. I think if Georgia wins, I think they're in. Bama's out.
Well, the winner gets in for sure.
Yeah, and the loser I think is out. No matter what. Georgia would be out for sure. I think Bama would be out as well, unless a lot of other crazy stuff happened. Clemson's going to win. They play Pitt. Pitt's offense has been much better this year, but I don't think Pitt is going to be able to get the job done against Clemson. Okay. Lawrence has really stepped up this year, so I think Clemson's going to get in. I said this a while ago. They're a lock. I said it like 4 weeks ago. Michigan, Ohio State. I think Michigan. I don't think there's any doubt they're going to win this week. I think they win, and I think they're in. If they lose, they're out because they're 2 losses. They're not going to get in with a loss to a 1-loss Ohio State.
And not playing in the conference championship game.
Yes.
And having 2 losses.
And Northwestern could sneak away with the win.
If Northwestern plays Ohio State, they definitely could.
Oh, absolutely. So I think here's the interesting thing, though, is the Big 12, Pac-12. You got probably Washington State. They play Washington next week. Probably Washington State in the Apple Cup, and they're going to play Utah. Will be my guess. If they win that and they have 1 loss on the season, although not a good loss to USC, but if that's their 1 loss, I think you could potentially see them
3 points.
Could potentially see them sneak into the playoff. But that would mean a Big Ten champ loses, Clemson loses. Those are the only 2 options, I think. Or somehow Notre Dame loses to USC. But I think that's the only way a Pac-12 gets in. Big 12, you're going to have Oklahoma or West Virginia, who lost yesterday, playing either Oklahoma, West Virginia, Texas, or Iowa State.
Yeah, I think Iowa State's probably got.
I think they're probably out.
Probably out now.
But you could see Texas playing Oklahoma. You could see Texas playing West Virginia, which means Oklahoma loses to West Virginia next week.
You could say Oklahoma playing Texas and losing again.
Or Oklahoma playing West Virginia 2 weeks in a row.
That's what I figured.
So if Oklahoma, let's say they do win out, you would have to have you would have to have someone else lose in the top 4 to get it, to even have a shot at getting in. And
you definitely have to have the Big Ten. You'd have to have Michigan lose.
Or Notre Dame. Michigan and Notre Dame lose. Otherwise, Big 12, Pac-12, you're out. You get technically what some people might call an at-large bid, and Notre Dame gets in.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, even if if Ohio State somehow figures out a way to run the table here, I think Oklahoma and Washington State still finish ahead of them.
I still think they do. I think UCF jumps Ohio State in the playoff rankings on Tuesday.
They should.
Because Ohio State a 1-point win over a streaky Maryland, who really their staple win this year is Texas. I just don't. I don't think.
There was a pretty funny sign. It said, I'll have to find it. Somebody said something
about like the cold weather. How's the weather up in Nebraska?
No, well,
I saw that one.
There was one that said something about I had this or that, but it got recruited to Nebraska.
Yeah.
Or something. It was funny.
Yeah. It was something like, I brought a sign in, but it got recruited.
Oh my God, I brought a sign, but it got recruited to Nebraska. Yeah. That's what it was.
Grant says Nebraska 11-1 next year. Heard it here first. I'm pretty sure we call it 10-2 or 11-1 season next year, but we haven't put it in writing, so we'll give it to you, Grant. If we go 11-1, we'll give you credit.
The schedule is definitely not as tough. We do play Ohio State. Yep. That'll be at home. Haskins will probably be a little better, even though he's been pretty good this year. But it just depends.
Yeah, it really does.
Haskins could probably go to the NFL if he wanted to. There's not that many good quarterbacks.
Yeah, he's not an NFL-style quarterback in my mind. He's got no mobility. I think it hurts him a lot. Here's what... first, I want to remind everybody, last year, Two Average Guys is probably the first people that reported Scott Frost coming to Nebraska. I'm just going to put it out there.
This is true.
I think it was like a week before, or maybe 2 weeks before. 2 weeks before it was reported. But we did talk about it with Carricker as well. We talked about him. We talked about it the week before we actually announced it. We talked to him about the potential of Scott Frost coming. Pretty good conversation. So check out that last year.
If you can go back to last year,
it was a good
conversation. On Two Average Guys, not on Cornhusker Nation, but
it's on YouTube.
We had a phone interview with Adam Carricker, and it was awesome.
Let's see. So we mentioned them having to stop the game because of the fans throwing snowballs on the field. That's pretty funny. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, you always see, like, we lose a game that we probably shouldn't lose. That tends to happen when we have an easy schedule. And you're like, oh, man, we could run the table, or we could have a 1 or 2 loss season, and then we get beat by someone we shouldn't and win a game that maybe we shouldn't. But I see us just offensively, Martinez growing into his position, our offense getting better. Some of those guys like Cade Warner and Mike Williams getting more playing time next year. You're still going to have Spielman. You got Martinez. You still have great run game with Mo Washington, plus the other guys that are coming right behind him. So, and Jack Stoll still being here. I think we got some good options next year on offense. So it's going to be defense again. It's going to be our question.
I was just thinking of something. If you haven't checked it out, listen to the podcast that we did with 2020 recruit Trevor Munson last week.
Yep.
But he said that he was coming to go to Big Fred's the next day. I forgot to mention that last week. I was very upset that I did not mention this. He said he was going to Big Fred's. That was very cool. Just wanted to make a quick note. Check out that podcast.
Yes. Hey, Pooty, if I had a middle finger to give you, I would.
What did he say?
He said, babysitting those beers. Take it easy.
Relax, dude. You gotta go hang out with the family the rest of the night, man.
Yeah, I gotta drive out to Gretna after this. So are we for sure out of the bowl picture?
I don't know.
It's been talked about for a couple weeks now.
A lot of people have said yes.
It's our APR that brings us down. And I don't think we're going to be able to make it in with a 5-win. Now, once again, maybe you're going to have more 5. They said you're going to have enough 6 and 16s, but maybe you don't. And they say, hey, Nebraska, you won 5 out of your last 6 games. We want to put you in a bowl because we know you're going to bring people,
fans.
So potentially, I think we're out though.
I mean, that'd be sweet because what were we? We were 5-7. We played UCLA. It was 8-4.
Yep.
And we beat them.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And you know who had a big game that game? Divine and Zigbo.
Yes. Divine and Zigbo. The dude's just a workhorse. I love it. You think Detroit not wanting Nebraska at the Quick Lane Bowl? I don't know. I think it'd be great to get a bowl game, but I also think it'd be great to get in the weight room early, to get the recruiting going, and move on to next year.
I think
after a good end of the season, to set the stage.
It's good to have that. We were talking about it last week. It's good to have that. Another month with the coaches and different things, but like you said, I think it is good for getting on that recruiting trail because I do think that they can go into somebody's house, they can go into a recruit's house, sit down with their parents and say, you know what, we came in to a pretty tough situation, and we started out, got the kinks out, and look what we did at the end of the season. We are on the right track now. Do you want to be a part of that?
Yep, absolutely. So, I think we're setting the stage for next year, and I think if we end up with a win over Iowa next week, which I think is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be very similar to the game today. I think it's going to be very similar to yesterday's game. I think it's going to be close. It's not going to be all field goals, though. Depending on weather, I think we could see a game with lower scoring. Iowa's offense is better than Michigan State's offense.
Agreed.
Stanley he's had some rough games. Those 3 games they lost, he didn't play very well. So it depends on what Nate Stanley comes. But it could be a little bit higher scoring. I think you could see maybe close to that 31-21, or it could be a 3-point game. It could come down to last possession. I think it's going to be a good game. It's going to be close.
I think going into yesterday, with how we have been playing and with how Iowa have been playing, I thought that we definitely had a very good chance to win the Iowa game.
Yep.
After yesterday, you see what kind of, we were able to gut this gritty win out. Iowa, they beat Illinois 63-0. That was not what I was expecting.
No.
So,
Illinois,
it probably is. Kind of depends on which team shows up.
Yep. Illinois had 4 turnovers, so that's back-to-back weeks with 4+ turnovers in the game.
But, Illinois was able to score on us.
Yep.
And they did not. They got a goose egg against Iowa. So, the offense is definitely going to have to be better than they were yesterday.
Yep.
I know the weather was a factor, but I think it will be a pretty close game.
Yep.
I hope it's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Definitely excited about it. And, it's the last one for the seniors more than likely.
Yep.
So.
And the last one for the season for us. So I think this season we go out with a bang. I think we do win the game once again. I think it's going to be close, though. Other games going on, Texas, Kansas. I put that one up because Texas is playing for the Big 12. They want to go to the Big 12 championship game, and they're not going to get there if they would be Kansas. And Kansas showed what they could do yesterday against OU.
I think Texas's defense might be a little better than Oklahoma's.
Yeah, they are. But they're still averaging on points per game. All the Big 12 teams that say they have good defenses are right at the same level.
Okay.
But here nor there. I mean, KU I think picks up a lot of momentum going to that last game. OU, West Virginia, once again, that's going to decide who goes to the Big 12 championship game. Even though West Virginia still could go.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Washington and Washington State. I think Washington State wins that one, but I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. Although I do think with Minshew, the way he's playing and their offense, I think Washington State beats them by maybe 10, 17 points. I think Washington's not the same team that they were supposed to be at the beginning of the year. Auburn, Bama. Auburn's terrible this year. SC, Clemson. SC could give them some trouble, but I think Clemson's still going to come out top.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, USC, blowout. And I think Utah State and Boise, that could be a fun game to watch.
For sure.
I got Utah State winning, but I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch.
I mean, at this point in time, neither one of those teams is going to... Well, I was going to say, I don't think either one of those could win as a Group of 5 team to go to a New Year's 6. I think UCF is going to lock that up.
Mm-hmm.
But that could be an entertaining game between 2 ranked teams.
Mm-hmm.
Props to the Citadel for keeping it 10-10 at half.
10-10 at half.
That was a sweet option that they ran.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they went into the locker room and Saban's we're not freaking losing this team. No,
how fun would that have been to be on that Citadel team when you went into halftime? I mean, you realize you're more than likely going to get blown out in the second half.
It was 30 to 10 real quick.
Oh, yeah, it was real quick. But you go into halftime, you're like, they haven't given up a point in the last 2 games to Mississippi State and LSU.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
or 2 of the last 3 at least.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool to see. And then they obviously blew their doors off. But
either way, but they put up more points against Bama than LSU and Mississippi State combined. So that's a fun stat. McKenna asked if we'll be continue our shows during the bowl season and conference championships. The goal is to absolutely continue the show.
Now we have in the past because we probably, we always talk about Nebraska. That's our big thing, but we do talk about college football as a whole.
Yeah, I think it'll be more obviously about other teams because we won't be in a bowl game. But we'll also be able to talk about recruiting.
Well, yeah, there could be some news on the recruiting trail or different things like that. So
so we'll still be around. We're not going anywhere. We'll try to keep, if nothing else, if we're not doing the live shows all the time, we'll try to get some podcasts going, keep the podcast live and kicking, and still work on talking to more recruits, maybe even players, maybe some of the seniors we can get to talk to. But we'll stick around. We're not going anywhere.
One last thought here. One thing I think that's really cool is that, this team didn't have a bye week. Mm-hmm. Now, we played Bethune-Cookman. The starters were out at half.
Yep. Josh mentioned that too.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
I didn't see that. But this is really cool. You stick out a win like that against Michigan State, with a team that's played 11 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
It's pretty intense.
It's really crazy.
It's something you just don't see in college football a lot.
Really don't.
You can say we played for 11 weeks in a row, but I guess we have because we had the rain out of the first game. So it's been pretty exciting. It's been fun to watch the turnaround. Once again, I think we win next week. I think our seniors, once again, that foundation's been set. They're like, I'm not losing to Iowa again. I've lost 3 years in a row. Not this year.
Yeah.
And I think we step up.
Joe Foster said, "Can't wait to go beat Iowa or whatever."
Yeah, I think the team's pumped. I think they're excited. We got a lot of momentum going to that game. Iowa doesn't have as much momentum. Yeah, 63-0 over Illinois, but it's Illinois. We put up 50-plus points. We gave up more points, but our defense gained confidence. Our offense is still going to be just fine. It might be cold, but we'll see what the weather brings.
Yeah, I haven't looked, I guess, to see what it's going to be like in Iowa City. I'm sure it's going to be cold.
Yeah, and it's going to change day to day.
Hopefully it's not going to be snowing, but if it is, so be it. Mm-hmm. We'll kick some field goals to win the game.
Absolutely. It's very big. He's going to win us the game again. Anyways, that's all we got today, guys. I'm looking forward to next week. Looking forward to, kind of that Thanksgiving hangover. I don't have to work, so I'll be home. It's going to be real
4
nice.
days off, baby.
That's right. So very excited. Hope you guys have a good week. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, enjoy all the food, eat your hearts out, and get ready for that Iowa game on Friday.
Yes.
I'm Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
We're two average guys. Good win. Go Big Red.
We'll see you next week.